Welcome to The Rest is Giant Robots, a conversation through the careers of writer Simon Furman and artist Andrew Wildman. Recollections and revelations about the highs and the lows as creatives in comics, books, games, film and TV. Welcome to episode 31 of The Rest is Giant Robots with me, Andrew Wildman.
And me, Simon Furman. And by now, if you don't know what we do, well, you're on the wrong podcast. You've stumbled across this by accident.
If you have stumbled across by accident, welcome. You'll find out what we do.
Yes. Generally, we talk about our careers in comics, TV animation, games, and many other genres of writing and art.
Yeah, we've done it all.
Yeah, we have. So here we are. We're going to once we've spoken on a couple of things, we're going to jump back in to the early 90s. We have had a request from one of our listeners, viewers, asking us if we could go into more depth on Transformers Generation 2, which was the second Marvel iteration of Transformers, and we're completely open to that. If anyone wants us to kind of go back, dig deeper, just drop us a line.
Yeah, always open to things that people want to know more about. I mean, we can fill with content because there's plenty of content, but if there's anything specific, and obviously it's not just Transformers, it's just that's probably what we are best known for. But I mean, for me, that's not the thing that I've done the most of either. I mean, you are Mr. Transformer, so you've done a hell of a lot of it, but there's a ton of other stuff that we've both done out there. So yeah, ask us anything. And also always I've had people say to me that they like the behind the scenes content. So any kind of any questions you've got about, techniques of writing or drawing, or any kind of techniques, questions you might have, given that we're now in a, or have been for many years, in a more digital age, like how has that changed things? Or if you're grown up in the digital age, how the hell did we used to do it before before digital?
Yeah,
And
it
all that
all
kind of thing.
sounds amazingly primitive when you talk about, you know, glue machines and things like that, when
Yeah.
people used to do paste up, and yeah, it sounds very archaic now,
I
but
think
yes,
one of the times that you see, certainly with comic artists, one of the times, because a lot of comic art, we're not going to talk about this at the moment, but I'll just briefly say, I would say I don't know, but I would say a huge number, if not the majority, of comic book artists and illustrators use digital platforms. So whether they're on Procreate or um, what's the current version of Manga Studio? Can't remember. Um, so any of those kind of things where you're drawing digitally on screen on a tablet, whatever. But the time that you do see comic artists drawing on paper with pencil and maybe inking it up with pens is when you get sketches at comic conventions. So that's where the artists really kind of show their drawing chops.
but I do know a lot of artists who have either stayed with, paper and pen and pencil,
Yeah,
or have gone back to it just because, you have the original art then to
yeah,
potentially sell or display. And, I think a lot of artists are thinking, well, I'm missing a beat here by not having a portfolio full of artwork for potential sale.
yeah, yeah. There is that. Yeah, none of it exists anymore.
Yeah,
It's
which
all in the
is
cloud.
it's a real shame,
So
but
it's
yeah.
all in heaven.
Yeah. So we are going to be talking about Generation 2, but
Mm.
first I just wanted to chat a little bit about at time of recording, I've just got back from a jaunt to the Battersea Power Station Transformers store in South London, and we were debuting a new Titan class Transformer, the first new Transformer, I think, created outside of Hasbro, or a sort of the official comics publisher, for a long, long time.
Mm.
So as yet, the Titan doesn't have a name. That's subject to a reader vote or a a sort of public vote at the moment based on the sort of the top three names. And yeah, it was a very exciting day unveiling both the Titan itself and the new comic I'm working on with the Battersea Power Station store that introduces the character.
So who then officially owns that character?
But I mean, I suppose like all Transformers, it's officially owned by Hasbro. It's done under license. But
Okay.
in this case, it's a little more interesting because obviously the idea was, no pun intended, generated by Battersea Power Station store itself, and the Titan turns into Battersea Power Station.
Right.
So not only did it need sort of Hasbro oversight, the owners of Battersea Power Station had to
Yeah.
be involved on a certain level as well, to the
Yeah.
point where they were very insistent that the Titan is not a sort of force for destruction or
Yeah.
a particularly weaponized thing,
Yeah.
and so all those things had to be taken into account, and they had input into the design that Frederick Pham Chung created for the actual transformation of the power station into a robot.
Wow.
And then yeah, then the next thing was I was brought in to uh, come up with a storyline that could feasibly introduce why Battersea
Why on
Power
earth?
Station. Yeah. And, I mean, it was interesting because, we couldn't rationalize, well, okay, as a functioning power station, how could it also have been a giant sized transformer in disguise?
Mm.
And latterly, as a sort of high end shopping center, it couldn't really also be transforming. So we set the story in period, sort of
Okay.
G1 period, when the power station was derelict and just
Okay.
a sort of a standing landmark of London.
The sleeping giant. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there were just lots of challenges in the writing to get the right balance of, okay, if we're setting this in 1986, it's going to be kind of classic G1 Transformers roster around it.
Hmm.
And also, just why is it on Earth? Why is it the power station? All these things had to be answered. And hopefully we do. And it's going to be a 12-part, mini comic within a poster, fold out poster book. And in
Nice.
fact, if those who are watching can see the Titan on my t-shirt,
Look at those chimneys.
yes. So, and like I say, Frederick did an amazing job of actually, because this current crop of artists
Mm.
can do this, can't they?
Oh yeah.
Back in the day, it was just like, you know, we they look mostly like the toys and they can transform, but these days
Yeah.
the
They work it
artists,
all out.
they work it all out. Yeah. They're like toy designers, 3D toy designers
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, there's only one name that you could call that character, surely. It's got to be the generator.
Yeah, I mean the one, and this will go out after the votes close, so I can say the one I really like that I came up with was Turbine Maximus, because it's formed of the two turbine halls of Battersea Power Station.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, but there are other ones on the table, so we wait to see. Although at the signing event, I did rather publicly say, this is my idea and I'd like you to vote for this one.
You
So
did
there you go.
do a trump on it, just like
Yes. Yeah.
totally own it. Doesn't matter what it is, who it belongs
Yeah.
to. Well, no, sounds great.
Yeah. But it was a great day, very busy. We were in there all day in the store on Transformers Day. Who knew there was a Transformers Day? But there
Was there a
is.
Transformers Day before this, or did they just make
I
up that?
I think there was one year before this that they started calling it September the 17th is Transformers Day. And the
Right.
reason for that apparently is when the first episode of the cartoon series aired.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some kind of precedent for it, I guess.
So who's going to be the one that's actually going to get September the 17th properly nailed on in popular culture?
Don't know. I mean, the trouble is you've got Star Wars Day, which is May the 4th,
Oh, yeah.
be with you, which kind of, but September the 17th doesn't quite have a sort of easy connectivity to it. But hey, maybe it's going to be a thing from now on.
But most don't. I mean, the Star Wars Day only. I mean, it was just funny, wasn't it? So they did it on that date, and wasn't there a
Mm.
like a follow up with the return Revenge of the Sixth or something 2 days
Oh,
later?
okay. Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, so
But no
yes,
other kind of memorable day in the international calendar has that
no,
kind of wordplay, does it? So
no, that one just, like you say, came out of the fact that May the 4th, it had
yeah.
the ring.
Mm,
But anyway, yes, so yeah, there we were, Transformers Day, two signing sessions, and then an evening sort of meet and greet session that people sort of paid a bit of money to come along to, which was amazing.
mm,
But
very
yeah, it
cool.
was me, Fred Pham Chung, and another of the newer Transformers artists, a guy called Pai Pa, whose
Mm,
first name I didn't know was Simon. So,
mm.
it was just as well he calls himself Pi, and we didn't have Simon and Simon
He's
going
been
on.
around a while though, isn't he?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
But he hasn't done much for Transformers before he started doing, I think, some of the Skybound variant covers.
Mm, okay.
But yeah, it was a great, and the turnout was good, the reaction was great, and I think we, gave the Titan as good a kickstart as it could get.
Mm. Yeah, good. Well, let's see if it gets any legs. Well, it's got
Indeed.
legs, but
Well, it has got legs, yes, yeah.
and
But
chimneys
yes,
for shoulders.
let's see, and hopefully in the fullness of time, Hasbro will decide to make a toy out of it, which would be rather grand.
That'd be fun, yeah.
Yeah. So yes, that
To
was
scale, not to scale of the other toys though, because
no, I think it would have to be a big toy though.
it would have to be massive, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I mean, they have made Titan toys, but obviously they're just sort of bigger than your average Transformer.
Bigger than your average transformer. Yeah,
Indeed.
very good.
So, so that was my week. Any other catch-up news from you before we jump into G2?
No, no builders still. Or we're getting to the towards the end of it. Well, we're getting towards the end of the work that we're having done upstairs, and then we're well, you and we're both at the Norcon next weekend.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we are.
Um, anyway, when we get back from Norcon, they should have pretty much finished upstairs, and then they'll be doing stuff that's going to impact this studio. So I'm going to have to go and work in the kitchen or something.
Oh,
Yes,
well, next podcast might be live from the Wildman kitchen.
yeah, probably will be. But no, other than
So,
that, like I say, I've been storyboarding slow horses. So that's been fun. Fun. Like, a lot of stuff with cars and things, car chases. That seems to be what I get mostly dragged into do these days because I just do it well, I suppose.
yeah. So let's talk about a little about G2. I know you want to
Let's.
round off with a little extra movie stuff just to continue last episode a little bit. But for the moment, let's talk G2, which
Mm,
for the uninitiated or those who didn't listen to the previous podcast that mentioned it, was a attempt by Hasbro and then Marvel to continue the original Transformers line and comic with a new iteration launched in 1993 that, featured a lot of classic characters in new, somewhat gaudy colors. Megatron was a sort of green, sort of
mm,
fluorescent green tank, I think. And
with an interesting kind of pattern on his chest to kind of,
mm,
yeah,
yeah,
don't know
I
why.
mean, it was interesting, but they were somewhat day glow, the colors of of a lot of the Transformers. There were
Mm,
lot of luminosity about the colors. Um, and you know what it didn't have, G2, was a new TV show. It was just a rebranded reissue of the original cartoon.
yeah.
So, I mean, I remember at the time being not underwhelmed, but not overly excited about Generation 2, just because we'd done Transformers by then, and
Mm,
both of us had moved on to other things at Marvel, and somehow it felt even then to me like possibly a backward step to be going back to Transformers. But I was a freelancer who took what work came my way.
yeah, yeah. Of course, as we do. If it's offered, we do it.
Mm,
We'd we'd suffered some downtimes. Even by that point, we'd there, it's very up and down career. So yeah, you just say yes. Say
yeah,
yes to everything.
it was, but it's funny because I look back, and at that time I would have been working on various what if stories, and um possibly still RoboCop, um and Alpha Flight. It
Mm,
was a busy time, and other smaller bits around that. I did some Toxic Crusaders, Captain Planet. There was a lot of I was picking up a lot of Marvel work, without, and Alpha Flight was my mainstream Marvel book, which
yeah,
was very exciting.
yeah.
And so strange.
So, I mean, is in hindsight, then, do you think that's quite a pivotal point, really? Because in hindsight, do you think it would have been better saying no to Transformers, and so you could and to kind of get yourself away from the toy TV books and then throw your all into Alpha Flight and present yourself as somebody as a, proper mainstream Marvel writer?
Yeah, I mean, there is a argument for, if I hadn't done G2, would I have been more, knocking on other editors' doors and saying, look, I'm working on Alpha Flight. I'm already on a mainstream Marvel book. What else have you got? Is there
Mm,
something else? I mean, I was in the offices. I was, known by then by a lot of the editors. So
mm,
yeah, there is an argument for saying, I might have been a bit more proactive in trying to get other mainstream Marvel work, but G2 plus Alpha Flight plus What If plus RoboCop, it was a full slate for me then.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, maybe, who knows? But, you know, do I regret Generation 2? Absolutely not, because strangely, even though, I think all of us had somewhat low expectations of how long this book could last without the sort of the full marketing of a toy company,
Mm,
TV show, and everything else behind it. And we felt a lot of the original readers had, in those, even in 2 years or so, had probably moved on from Transformers. Little did we know. But but we just thought it's going to be strange. We've got to attract almost a whole new audience here,
mm,
um, but also be faithful to what had come before to a certain extent. So before we did Regeneration 1, there are elements of a continuing storyline in G2 from G1.
mm. I mean, in some ways, it's surprising that Marvel did actually do the book at all.
Mm,
Because I can remember when I was on G1, given that I was kind of there for the final year and it, been
mm,
around a while, and then my first trip to the Marvel offices, and Rob Tokar, who was the editor towards the end, he kind of took me around and introduced me to various other editors, and there was that comment from more than one editor where they said, "Do we still do that book?" They
mm,
didn't even know that it was still a
yeah.
thing, which was which was quite, it was a bit disempowering for me. I was thinking, oh, I've just arrived, and it's so. Yeah, so kind of because they were trying to move away from toy books. I mean, there's money in it, I guess, but
Mm,
there's not going to be. I can't imagine that continuing with Transformers was going to have the same,
no.
financial gain for Marvel. I mean, good that they did, but
Mm,
and it was a great looking book.
yeah. I mean, there's the first thing that sort of attracted me to it was Derek Yaniger's art.
Yeah.
When we saw, his samples, the maybe the first cover, I just thought, wow, this is okay, this is maybe grabby enough to pull in new readers.
Where
And,
did he come? Where
not
did he come from? Did they?
I think he was someone who'd done work for Rob, because Rob was the editor of Generation 2, Rob
Yeah.
Tokar. And, I think he was relatively new artist on the block at the time.
Yeah.
And, he just had this very interesting style. I mean, you can see if you're watching this on video channel, you can see the art behind me. It had a real sort of edginess to it. It looked sort of darker and
Yeah.
a little more sort of unsettling almost.
It's like a Jeff Senior fever dream.
Mm,
There's
when-
kind of echoes of Jeff, I think, but just more twisted and but
yeah. I
there's
mean,
something of that.
he just had a style, and we started off with a giant-sized issue one. And the art that was coming in was just, breathtaking. I mean, full of all that sort of 90s attitude and, you know, literally they had bullet belts and big guns, the Transformers. It was so of that time.
Yeah.
Um, but the energy of the art and the grittiness and the slight dirtiness of the look of it definitely had, Rob on the first issue put a picture of Optimus Prime close in with sort of shell casings embedded in his head and things,
Yeah.
and a smoking gun in his hand. And the cover line was, "This is not your father's Autobot." And I just thought that's cool. It just sort of set out its stall in a very much like whatever you thought Transformers was, this is going to be different. And I
Yeah.
and I think it was. And it was only sort of latterly that we did try to say, oh, and this is a continuation of the original series. But at the time we started, very much this is going to be new readers picking this up. So we have to kind of grab them from the start.
Mm. What year was that? Just remind me again.
93.
Okay.
And it got a strange launch in G.I. Joe because I didn't actually write the first Generation 2 material. That was Larry Hama,
Okay.
who dropped Megatron as a tank into I think it was 3 or 4 issues of GI Joe, a real American hero.
Hmm.
And so really it's funny, he sort of did the first stories, and then I just got to come in and do the first full hit of Generation 2 Transformers solo stuff.
Yeah.
But
Interesting.
it was interesting that then when issue 2 rolled around, um, you were brought in to do, because we crossed it back over with GI Joe in issue 2 to
Hmm.
keep that thread going, and
Hmm.
you came in to do the GI Joe pages.
So I guess I was not doing GI Joe by that point. Been doing. I did about 18 months of GI Joe, which is quite
Mm,
a run. And I'd come off of it and gone on to whatever it was, Black Cat, I think it was, something
mm,
like that. So yeah, quite interesting to be pulled back in. I mean, I guess it was an obvious choice because I'd done both books. I don't think anyone else
mm.
had done both books.
No,
It was probably the only one. So I thought, oh, this will be fun.
but already we understood that Derek, you know, amazing artist, but I think he put so much intensity into the art, he wasn't very fast.
No.
So almost from after, I mean, okay, issue 1 was giant size, and that must have taken a lot longer. But I think quickly both Rob and then I realized that Derek couldn't possibly do this, you know, 22 pages a month.
Mm.
So, so almost from the outset, which was a little, almost the first kind of knockback on G2 was, because I thought, oh, great, Derek's just going to do all the art. But, I mean, apart from having you in, which was great, then from issue 3 onwards, we needed to think about breaking the stories up in a
Mm.
way that there was almost a lead and a backup story
Mm-hmm.
so that Derek, well, the idea was Derek did the lead and somebody else did the backup, but very quickly that got flipped around and the someone else, I think it was Manny Galen originally,
Yeah.
did the lead, and Derek just did the back 6 page backup.
Wow. Yeah.
So it was a real shame in that way because, the consistency almost from the start wasn't there. We just didn't have that through line of one artist to embed the
Mm.
book.
Mm. Yeah, which you kind of need for a certain amount of time, don't you?
Mm. And so it kind of felt we were up against it from the beginning, but we still, as always, I think when I do something, I attack it like it's the thing that's going to last for years and years. So
Mm.
I was developing storylines that could be that sort of carried on and on. We sort of roughed out the first 12 issues, but
Mm.
the idea was always that then we would slightly pull the camera back and it's like, oh, look, there's a whole other bigger picture we haven't seen yet, and then that would carry on happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't really to be. And even from the start, I think Rob and I and various other people were realistic about it. We just thought, we'll do the best we can. But, and obviously we didn't see the kind of implosion of the comic biz coming
Yeah.
either at that time,
Yeah.
um, which didn't help matters. But I think G2 wouldn't have carried on anyway, regardless of that sort of bubble bursting that happened in the mid 90s.
Yeah. Which would have been it'd be yeah, one of the first books to go. I mean, so many books were just cancelled almost instantly, weren't they?
Yeah,
As soon
yeah.
as
I
things
mean,
got tricky, there was so much kind of that they could cut back on just to rationalize things a bit, and there were a lot of casualties, and then it got closer
mm,
and closer to the epicenter, really. So even
yeah,
proper decent books were getting cancelled. So
mm, yeah. Oh, well, I mean, towards the end of this, I think G2 had finished by this point because it only ran for effectively a year of publishing. But after G2, it wasn't that long after that that Alpha Flight had to be wrapped up and
mm,
RoboCop finished somewhat in mid flow, and almost like every book I was on, and we've talked about this before, was canned within a space of a few months.
yeah, it was definitely like that. I mean, my kind of feeling at that point was that it was like there was this secure ground, like at the center of Marvel, which was like X-Men,
Mm,
Spider-Man, but there wasn't an awful lot that was secure ground. The rest of it was shaky, and it was almost like you're trying to run towards the secure ground, and the land you're on is just crumbling away
mm,
beneath you, and you get onto another book, and then that crumbles away, and then another one that crumbles away. And I mean, for me, with both of us really, but I very much felt like never quite got the leap onto solid ground.
yeah,
And then it was
and
time to just get out.
well, yeah, well, I mean, there wasn't really much say in it. It was just, when Marvel and the whole comics biz kind of contracted, lots of creators, because, so many books were coming out from Marvel, lots of creators were in the same boat as us, and they
Mm,
just didn't have work anymore.
no. And I mean, I guess the kind of closest I got to that was doing a 4 issue Venom series. which is still reprinted today because it's,
Mm,
considered one of Larry's kind of classic four-issue storylines, and I was lucky enough to be the artist on it. But the thing
mm,
is that when all those, peripheral and then getting closer to the centre books were being cancelled, some really good artists were getting freed up, and so
mhm.
I was never going to get a regular gig on Venom because there were so many long-term, really top drawer artists whose books were getting cancelled. So they,
Yeah,
so it was a funny old time,
it
but
was.
great
And
that Transformers G2 did have its chance, its day in the
mm,
sun.
it did. And, the other thing about G2 is, again, we didn't, even though, as everybody knows by now, I named one of the characters as G Ax Us, sort
Uh,
of as a sort of, well, almost a challenge. So, because, we had limited expectation, but, nevertheless, when I look back on the 12 issues of G2, there's some good stuff in there, and it set up other things that got taken, that, we introduced this sort of nebulous threat called the Swarm, which was like a
mm,
robot consuming cloud of mini beings. And that got picked up by the Beast Wars script editors and turned
okay.
into this other alien menace called the Fok. So, it was nice that it had a continuance, if you like, into the next era of Transformers as well.
Yeah, so it does its. I mean, I'd never read it, I have to admit, but um, I didn't know that's where the name G-Axis came
Yes, yeah,
from.
it really
How
is.
many people know that? I mean,
Oh,
a
I
lot
mean,
do now, but
lots do now, but it and now it's even an official Hasbro toy. So there's a toy called G Axos, but it was fun. That was the spirit of Marvel, really, to sort of put those little you know in jokes into the books.
yeah, it's always been there, isn't
Hmm.
it?
And
Nice.
like I say, I look back on G2, and as it rolled along, we managed to get Jeff to do some of the art as well. So while we kept Derek for the whole run, we had interludes from Jeff Senior in there, which was really cool as well.
Nice. Yeah, yeah, very good. Yeah.
Yeah, and as a body of work, I'm quite pleased with it, and like I say, my only regret, I think, most is that Derek, you know, just hadn't got the sort of the speed, I suppose, to do the whole book, because I think it would
Mm.
have looked, you know, that much more cohesive a thing if he had.
Yeah, I mean it is a lot of work. I mean, I'm always surprised when people come up to me, at conventions and they say, "Look, how do you get into comics and how can I become a comic artist?" And when I say, well, when I explain to them the output, which essentially works down to a page a day, you've got to draw a
Mhm.
page a day, and they're like, "What?"
Yeah,
I'm thinking, well, you read this stuff, so you do know
yeah,
their monthly books, and they've got
yes, that's
22
right.
pages in, so that's kind of
Yeah.
that, really.
And there's a lot of stages after you turn in your pencils or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but
So,
it was great. And I it's funny you mentioned Jeff, didn't you, in terms of Derek's art, and
yeah.
he did have that ability to just make everything kind of dynamic. There was very
Yeah.
little sort of you know soft edges, and I always remember there's
Yeah.
one scene where I think it's just in one of the by then backups that Derek was doing, where Megatron turns up. He's been, nearly destroyed, or part of his face is missing. He's been in a big battle with Jaxus and lost it. And
Mm.
he turns up, and, the final page of this sort of slightly almost skeletal Megatron with part of his face missing. Utterly brilliant art. And then in the next one, there's a scene where he's confronting Optimus Prime, and Grimlock sort of storms in from off page and
Mm.
into him like a sort of runaway bull. and that again, he got so much motion and dynamism into that art.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. As did Jeff. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Mine was kind of different. I wasn't. I mean, I was going for some of that, but there were other things that
Hmm.
kind of inspired me to kind of portray. But yeah, Jeff and Derek, not Def and
Yeah.
Jarek.
Yeah.
Yeah, had a kind of a similar thing going on. Well, it's great. It's just so much energy in it, a lot
Mm.
of energy, which is really good. So, did Derek go on to do anything else after that?
Well, I mean, I think he did, but again, he was probably a casualty of not enough work to go around. Strangely, Derek drew one other thing I did. I did I think Peter David introduced a character called the Foreigner into Spider-Man. He was a kind of master assassin or someone who, sort of sent assassins after people, some kind of kingpin of assassins. Anyway, I did a very small Foreigner story for that sort of anthology book Marvel Comics Presents
Hmm.
that was coming out. And Derek drew that, which was interesting because I'd only ever seen him do Transformers stuff, but he did a very good
Yeah,
job on that sort of 5 or 6 page Foreigner story.
yeah, cool.
But yeah, he must have
Yeah,
done other things, but I don't think he stayed in the comics biz. I think he went more into, art outside of just comics, but I don't know much beyond
okay,
that.
yeah.
We'll have to try and
Well,
get him, on the
yeah,
show.
yeah, we could do. Well, the other person we need to get on the show is Rob Tokar,
Yes, yeah.
because there'll be so much background, internal stuff from that era, that
Mm.
Rob
Well,
could, and also Rob's he's a great one for telling a yarn. It'd be,
yeah, yeah. No, we'll definitely be reaching out to Rob to see whether he can be our next guest on the show. So, yeah, I'll
yeah,
jump onto that right after we're finished.
yeah, that'd be fantastic. Good.
So, okay, that's a little bit on Generation. I know you wanted to do a little bit of a follow up to last episode's movie TV roundup.
Yeah. And also what we were possibly going to do, which we're not going to do now. We were going to talk about the engine. That's why I've got my old
Yes,
wildfur
but but
t-shirt on.
but again,
But
that's
we'll
been an
push that.
yeah. I mean, that's another request just to go back on ourselves. We'd spoken briefly about it, but again, we're gonna in a future one dip back into the engine and the
Hmm.
wild fur sort of title, potential titles, a little deeper.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have a look back at some of those. Um, but yeah, I just thought it'd be nice to finish off. There's just a couple of things I wanted to dip into in terms of screen stuff, which would be nice. I mean, anything to recommend. In fact, have you got anything to recommend that you've watched recently, Simon?
Yeah, again, I haven't really been to the cinema at all, which is very remiss and I need to sort out. But TV wise, there's been a lot of good stuff on. I've been watching Alien Earth,
Yeah.
which I really like. It's a weird one because, my normal is, make sure there's someone you really like, and you follow, but they're all unlikable characters, but it's just very, very watchable. It really is. There's not really anybody to latch onto in that way, but it's just immensely enjoyable. Best alien sort of stuff I've seen for ages.
Okay.
I'm also watching Peacemaker season 2, which is the James Gunn uh, written, directed sequel to the previous Peacemaker series.
Mm.
Uh, and that is just also really, really good fun as well. It's just so wrong, but it's so wonderful. It's really good. So I
I, I
thoroughly recommend.
I haven't seen either of those. Our viewing pleasures are kind of, it's like a Venn diagram with overlap in some things and then slightly different in others.
Yeah. And of course, the new season of Slow Horses starts this month.
It does, yeah. 25th, I think it is.
Yeah.
There is some good stuff coming up, but yeah,
Mm.
Slow Horses being one of them, which is going to be good because the season I'm working on. So season 5 is the one that comes out next
Yeah.
week. and I'm working on season 7. So I
Mm.
spoke to Robbie, the director, and I was like, what? Wow, that's far ahead. What's going on here?
They do them in pairs, don't they?
Well, I did wonder that, but he said season 6 has finished production. It's in post now.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know who directed that. Yeah, and we're just starting in pre-production for season 7. So, yeah, 6 or 7 are kind of rolled in together. I don't know when season 5 was finished. I can only assume they go pretty much one after the other, because if season 6 is in post now, that probably started the pre-production on that probably started
Mm.
when they were in post or when they just about finished season 5. So it seems to be a constantly rolling
Mm.
machine, which is really
Yeah.
really good.
And
But season 7 doesn't come out until 2027, I think. So
mm.
so it's
No,
quite a way off.
it is, yeah. But and it's great. The new novel from Mick Herron's just come out. I think it's called Send in the Clowns.
Mm,
And so there's a constant source of new Slough House stuff coming out.
yeah. Yeah, it's good. No, I'm enjoying it. So in terms of stuff that I've seen, there's a movie I just want to give a just a very quick critique of. But in in terms of TV, there's 3 series that I just jotted down that we've watched recently. All 3 are really, really good. And they're essentially they're female-led characters,
Mm.
usually like a pair of female-led characters, and they're great. There's one called The Better Sister with Jessica Biel and Elizabeth Banks, both of whom you will immediately recognise when you see them. I mean,
Mm.
Jessica Biel's, been in a ton of
Yeah.
stuff. Um, that's really good, very intriguing in all senses, kind of thriller thing.
Mm. What's that
Thoroughly
on?
recommend.
What's that on?
I think it's Prime. I can't remember.
Okay.
Well, actually, I don't know. Search it out.
Oh,
Type
I
in
will.
The Better Sister,
Yeah, I
Jessica
will.
Biel, and you'll
I
find
I
out.
will find it.
Um,
And
a- Another one I think it was on Channel 4 called The Guest with Eve Miles, the
mm,
Welsh
yeah.
actor. She's great. She's really, really great. That was good. That was very intriguing. You don't really know where it's one of those. You don't know where it's going. It's like, where the hell is this going?
Mm.
Um, and yeah, pretty good kind of resolution at the end. But that was thoroughly enjoyable. But the best one is a show called The Girlfriend.
Okay.
I think that definitely was Prime,
Mm.
and that's Robin Wright. That was
Yep.
in House of Cards and many other things. She's good, and she's an exec on it, and she directed the first episode and some of the others as well. So as first episode director, what really impressed me about it was that because the director on a first episode or the first block of a series, if it's a multi-director series, the first director is the one that sets
Mm.
the look, really, the mise en scène, the kind of the whole style of the thing. Um, and she's done an amazing job. It's such a good looking show,
Mm. Okay.
really slick, really slick. Um, Also stars Olivia Cook,
Hmm.
who I'd forgotten this, but she was in the first series of Slow Horses. She was a character that was killed off quite quickly.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And she was also in the TV series Bates Motel. So
Mm.
she's really good. But that's that's a great series, The Girlfriend. I
Okay.
thoroughly recommend
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Um, just in terms of the psychology of the characters and the tension. It's one
Mm.
of the ones where between scenes, I felt really nervous about what was gonna happen in the next scene. It's like, what the
Okay.
hell's gonna happen next? One of those. So they're my 3 recommendations for anyone
Okay.
who's after some good thrillers. Movies. So I've never read the book. I've heard a lot about it. Um, I know that the writer of the book and these books is, some say, a genius. He's certainly a very, very intelligent man. Thursday Murder Club. Brilliant cast. I mean, Spielberg attached. He picked it up as a property and wanted to make it. Directed by Chris Columbus, who we all remember
Mm,
from many things, Home Alone.
mm,
So we thought there's a lot. This is going to have a lot to offer with this cast. Helen Mirren,
mm.
Sir Ben Kingsley, um, Pierce Brosnan. I mean, there's just some great
Yeah.
people in it. It's absolute bobbins. It really is. It starts off and you think, okay, I'll give this a chance because it's essentially a comedy drama thriller thing, and it rolls along, and you think, but then you get to the point where you think, why are these people in this? This is like a poor old school BBC drama like Miss Marple or something, but with a big budget.
Mm,
Um, and then you kind of slide into it a bit. You give yourself up to it, and you think, well, I'll go along with this. It does have its moments. There are some good things and there are some good lines, but basically the script is pretty poor.
mm,
The thing that absolutely I did not get at all, and this is a huge spoiler, so if you want to go and see it and you don't want to know anything about the ending, you might have to kind of turn the sound down. If you have no intention of seeing it or you've already seen it, what the F with the ending? So the final thing that needs resolving is two murders. Um, and it turns out that a couple, a man and woman couple, are both responsible for both of the murders. Um, the woman who was an ex-police officer, and she killed the person, the first murder that they're exploring, and they find that out. But she's in a coma now. They're in a nursing slash retirement home, and her husband is her carer. So you think, how are they going to get out of this? So they've discovered that the husband killed one of the people in the narrative. The his wife, ex-police officer, back in the day, she killed, the person in the first murder that they were exploring. What are they going to do? They found out this information, but the policewoman's in a coma. So they are left with a choice. The choice is, do they do the right thing and dob them in? Well, basically a choice of three. Do they do the essentially the right thing and dob them into the police because they're murderers? Do they do the sort of compassionate thing where they're like, we're all old. These people were questionable characters. We know they've done this. Let's just forget the whole thing. Let's just like bury it in our minds. We're old. We're not going to be around much longer. There's nothing you can do about it. Or the third option is the guy, the husband of the carer, husband of the woman. He was a vet, so he's got access to medication, and in his drawer he's got syringes, for the day that they might choose to euthanize themselves.
mm.
So all these lead characters who are the 30 Murder Club, they literally say their goodbyes and walk out the room, leaving them to euthanize themselves. It's like,
What?
seriously? It's
Wow.
like there must be certain sectors of the society who are up in arms about certain decisions about life choices and, end of life, which is a huge debate. We must be
Mm.
up in arms about that.
How weird.
It's just, I don't know if that's what happens in the book. And if anyone listening knows what happens in the book, so I haven't read it, do let me know whether that is the ending. But in terms of coming up with an impossible, okay, for me, the absolute touchstone of how to get out of an impossible ending and make it a beautiful ending is Breaking Bad. Like there was no way out of that, and yet
Mm,
the writer came up with an ending which is so beautiful in its kind of Shakespearean tragedy. But this, they've almost written themselves into a corner, and it's like, if you can't get out of it with grace, don't have that be the plot at all, as far as
mm.
I'm concerned.
Oh dear. Well, I shan't be bothering, I mean, again, I haven't read the book and I have no real interest in doing so.
Yeah, I was horrified. I was
Yes.
horrified with the ending, and I was disappointed with the journey.
Yeah. Oh well, anyway, that's a downer note to finish on, but hey, we're going to finish on it because that's the kind of guys we are.
Yeah.
So thank you as always, everyone, for tuning in, or whether it be on the video channel or the audio channel. And yeah, do come back for episode 32, which we'll try and remember. It's episode 32 next time.
And it will be about something, and it will be you introducing it.
Yes, yeah. We'll probably, move on a little bit before we move back.
Okay, that's good. Give me advance warning so that I can get my
Yes.
t-shirt laundered
Yes.
and ready.
Get the right t-shirt on and I'll get the right digital background.
Yeah.
Right, everyone, thank you very much. And this is us signing off.
Signing off. Thanks, everybody. Bye. Thank you for listening to The Rest is Giant Robots. If you enjoyed what you heard, please consider subscribing for more and maybe share with like-minded friends. This has been a Wildfur production.